Have you ever built your business around making more money and hitting revenue targets, only to find that it has left you burned out, stressed out, disillusioned, and generally demotivated? If so, that is something that I experienced in my former marketing agency. I experienced that a lot. I want to share with you in this video my personal story, the insights that I gained from it, and some practical applications that you can apply starting right away to help you overcome this challenge if you feel it. So this video is about when financial success doesn't actually feel like success. So let me first give you a quick introduction. I'm Sam. I'm the co-founder of Kingdom Impact Lab, along with my incredible, amazing wife, Tattoo. The purpose of this channel in the early stages is, for me, it's to help me teach, to steward my gift of learning and studying and my insatiable curiosity, so that I can be a blessing to others and share my insights with others. More specifically, to start off with, it's to help me improve my own teaching skills, so I will be able to explain complex ideas and complex insights and things that I learn along the way into a easy to understand framework to use in the future. So for me, these videos are just practicing to help develop my own understanding and also to share my insights with you. I hope you find it valuable. My wife Tattoo, she does the Motherhood Moments videos where she is documenting her journey as a mother with a 3-year-old and a baby, and what we're doing to try to become Christ-like in the way that we parent, and how you, perhaps any mothers out there, will experience the same. It's inevitable that you're going to experience the same problems, and we just want to bring you along on the journey so you're not alone. So if you check any of those out, great. So when financial success doesn't feel like a success. So for me, the biggest story for me here was that for several years I was a freelance copywriter. I read everything I could get my hands on with copywriting. I invested in training to help me be a better freelancer and how to get copywriting clients, and helping me specialize in email marketing. I remember I was traveling, I was in Panama at the time, and I had an opportunity to invest in like a little coaching program, and I really did not have the money at the time, but I knew it was right, and I negotiated a payment plan with them, so I could have access to this training, which was an in-depth deep dive on email marketing, and I remember going through that and studying that, and then applying it and getting results for people, and it felt great, and then basically building up. But because everything in copywriting, marketing, and in business is done through a transactional lens, everything is focused on how much money you make, your return on investments, cost per hour. When you're building email lists or when you're doing email marketing, you're focused on number of the size of the email list, click-through rates. The metrics I used to help people get were sales per subscriber, for example, revenue per email, things like that, revenue per subscriber. So everything is 100% purely transactional, and that's just the way it is. So naturally, after reading copywriters and learning from other freelancers and just basically finding anyone that was a few steps ahead of me, or light years ahead of me, and read what they did and studied them and listened to the podcast and reverse engineered what they did and spending a lot of time doing that over the years, there was an amount of money that I wanted to make as a freelancer. was it. That was my North Star. That was always in the back of my head. That was what I was chasing. That's what I wanted to achieve. And then one day, out of the blue, within a short space of time, we went from being completely flat broke after my wife gave birth and the natural stress of what that brings, to a few months later having a client come through a referral of all things, and then next thing I know I'm making the amount that I set my target at for, what was it, 5 years, 6 years? So I was constantly chasing that one amount of money I wanted to make per month as a freelancer, and then I did. Felt great. It was nice to see the money come into the bank account. And it felt great. I can't remember how long it felt great, because we went to the local resort, we started to do things, we started to go out to eat at hotels a lot. I started to go down the typical path of consumerism and wanted to buy fancy watches, wanted to spend my money on fancy clothes and all these things, basically to give the impression that I was successful when in actual fact I wasn't, because the amount of money that I was after is insignificant. It's not even that much in the grand scheme of things. Point I'm trying to make is that it felt great for a day or two, maybe even a week, potentially stretched out to a month, and then, as with everything, it became normal. And so the reason why this kind of happens is that we focus intensely on achieving one goal, and then we achieve it, and then we kind of lose motivation, and then we feel a bit lost and a bit disoriented. That's a very common thing. Another example of how this actually happens is in my personal life. One of my hobbies is endurance running. By far I'm not the best at it, but I just like to run long distances. Now, I remember in my early days, 8-9 years back, and I signed up for my very first marathon, and then all my training was focused on that marathon, and then I finished it, and I couldn't walk for the week afterwards. I was so sore, I was hurting and all these things, and while I was feeling the pain of the muscle soreness, I felt that sense of accomplishment, of achieving it. But when the muscle soreness went and things went back to normal, all of a sudden I kind of lost. I felt a bit lost. What am I going to do next? So immediately I signed up for another race, another marathon, and then I was focused on training to do that marathon. And then all of a sudden I'm focused on that next goal. And when I do that, then I do it, and then I'm kind of thinking, well, what's next? Because the joy and the fulfillment lasts a little bit less this time. At the same time, sign up for another marathon, and then I go and do that, and then a day later I feel sad and depressed. I'll sign up for another marathon, and then it goes on and on, and it just isn't enough anymore. So that's when I start getting interested in doing longer distances, like ultra marathons and things. And then the point I'm trying to make here, because I can talk about this all day, is you set yourself a goal, like your race, and then you have a highly structured, highly focused training plan in order to achieve your goal. The goal is tangible, it's black and white. The race is on a set day, at a set time, and you either succeed by completing the race, or completing the race in a time target that you set yourself, or you fail by not finishing the race, or not hitting your time target. Clear cut. Structured training, you would be running and training 5 or 6 days a week. Then you would have your race, and you would know if you succeeded or failed. After that, a very common thing that happens with runners is you then start to feel depressed, a little bit sad, depressed, and then you sign up for the next race. Extremely common. That same concept there directly applies to when it's in your business and you're chasing a revenue target. And I'm going to try to explain the reason for this. The reason for this is that humans are programmed to find joy, fulfillment in the progression towards a meaningful goal. So when we actually achieve a goal, we get the dopamine release in our brain, we feel the sense of satisfaction, but it doesn't last. You know, all you got to do is think about that. It typically takes you, your body, and you 2 weeks to adapt to a new environment, and then everything becomes normal again. So when you achieve a goal, you can't really feel that deep sense of satisfaction for longer than a short time after the fact, because you know it just becomes normal. I mean, just think about when you get married, for instance, and you have a honeymoon period, and everything's great, and you feel madly in love with your wife and all of these things, or madly in love with your husband, and it feels great. And then all of a sudden, after a period of time, it starts to normalise, and then you're back into the day-to-day grind of things, back into the day-to-day, you know, all the day-to-day things you're doing, and suddenly the marriage no longer feels exciting, and then you know you drop off into your own routines, and then you have to actively work on your marriage to keep the spark alight. And that's why after several years, many marriages and many husbands and wives, they don't feel happy in their marriages. It's why I think there's a 50% divorce rate in some countries. It's because after the initial goal, you have the honeymoon period, and then it goes off. So the point here is that getting married, running your first marathon, running your first 10 marathons, even hitting a specific financial goal in your personal life or in your business life, they are all intrinsically meaningful goals. You want to achieve them. But then when you achieve them, you then go through this period of, so what's next? Natural, because we find our fulfillment in the progression towards the goal. When we achieve the goal, it goes off, we feel disoriented. We need to establish the next goal. So, but what do we do? If you've run 10 marathons, for example, running marathon number 11 certainly is not meaningful as running your first marathon, unless you give yourself some kind of a reason to do it. If you make, just for numbers' sake, if your goal is to make 100,000 a year in whatever currency that you're in, when you make 100,000 a year, after a few months, that initial excitement of what you've achieved goes off. After a few weeks, it becomes normal. You've enjoyed spending things, but you just don't find that fulfillment. What you need to do is set yourself the next goal. So you achieve one goal, and then you want to progress towards your next goal, and your next goal, and your next goal, and your next goal, and your next goal. This, what Jordan Peterson teaches here, this is the essence of Jacob's ladder from Genesis in the Bible. And how Jordan Peterson articulates it is that humans need a series of ever-expanding goals that get bigger and bigger and bigger into infinity, that are unattainable, and it's something that you'll never achieve. So that essentially you are on that infinite quest towards the biggest goal that you can possibly imagine, and to achieve, it's impossible to achieve. So you're always getting better. You're always in that process. You're always moving towards whatever that goal is. And in general, that coincides and correlates with the way that humans are programmed. The problem is that we set ourselves a goal, and then it just becomes, achieving the first goal, high focus, we do it, and then the second goal becomes meaningless. So in the context of revenue, let's say you make 100,000. What's the next milestone? 150,000? Maybe, probably not. Typically the way things work is you go from 100,000 to 250,000, 250,000 to 500,000, 500,000 to 1 million. That would be the typical way that your brain would work. So in other words, you work for 5, 10, however many years to hit this goal of say 100,000 a year, and then instantly, before you even have time to enjoy it, you've suddenly more than doubled how much you need to make in a year, and how much you need to make per month, and how much you need to make per week and per day in order to hit the next goal. of course you're not going to enjoy it, because instantly you have to set the next goal, because that's how I'm programmed. And then you're looking at, well, look at how much I've got to now do to achieve this next goal. This is one of the causes for it. And of course, unless you have a real deep reason about why you are going to pursue your 250,000, other than for the fact that I'm going to get more money, there's no intrinsic meaning to it. And if there's no meaning, that's when you're going to feel burned out. That's when you're going to be looking for, what's the point of this? Where's the purpose? How am I going to continue to do what I'm currently doing and still feel the same amount of joy and fulfillment? That's why it happens. That's one of the reasons why it happens, and that's certainly why it happened to me, and that's certainly what I've discovered from my own personal experience. And this is probably why, if you've got an established business, or if you have made it, you look successful on the outside, it's probably why you don't have that inner fulfillment on the inside. And that's because the initial excitement and the progress and that chase towards your big meaningful goal, well, you've achieved it, and then the next big goal that you set yourself does not contain that intrinsic meaning. And this is what I suspect is a massive problem among a lot of people. And what I want to do is to conduct some kind of research to actually see if it's a problem. Because if other people do experience the fact that they are chasing revenue, if other people find that they are that chasing revenue targets or worldly success no longer motivates or excites them, and then they lose their joy, their sense of fulfillment, and eventually over time they grow to hate the business. They can no longer justify the time away from their family in order to pursue the next revenue milestone, because there's no real meaning to it. If anyone else experiences this, well, I've uncovered it for myself, and this is what I want to help others do as well. So the solution of what I found is, my personal story is unique, and I understand that this will not be the same for everyone here. And my personal story was that when I hit that financial goal, I then wanted to try and buy all the expensive things that I could now afford, and I bought some. I bought a new watch that I never wear now, so that was a waste of money. I bought there was a wedding we were going to, so I decided I'm going to buy a nice jacket that you wear. Well, I bought it, I tried it on in the shop. We live in Malaysia where it's hot, humid every day. Temperatures don't even drop below 25 degrees Celsius where we live. And then you combine that with the humidity and it feels much hotter. Well, there was an outdoor wedding, so I tried on the jacket in the shop. It looked nice, felt good. I felt like I looked good, so I bought it. Took it to the wedding, which was outdoors, and because it was so hot and sunny, I could not wear it because I'm just sweat's pouring out of me. So I take it off and carry it in the wedding, and then I bring it back and I put it in the cupboard, and it's been in the cupboard now for 2.5 years. Again, in hindsight, not exactly the best use of spending money. I went and bought a pair of brand name shoes. Again, cost a fair bit of money, not substantial, but by local standards, it was quite expensive. And the only time I wore them was to go to church. But turns out they're actually quite uncomfortable, and they're also a bit difficult to put on. I've got to sit there and then put them on, put them over, and then tie them all up, and the laces are a bit short and this and that. Well, not exactly the easiest thing to do when you've now got a new baby, and you've got a 3-year-old that wants to run off, and then you've got a baby, or sometimes I'm holding the baby and I've got in the carrier, I've got to put my shoes on, or all these different things. No longer practical, so I just put my trainers on. Again, they now at the back, haven't worn them in several months. The excitement here was the excitement, and I got an instant gratification dopamine release simply by making a transaction and buying them, and I can put my hands up now and be honest and say that the only reason I wanted to buy an expensive watch, the only reason I wanted to buy brand name shoes, the only reason I wanted to buy an expensive jacket that made me look all smart and all of this, quite frankly, it's to try to give the impression that I was successful when actually I wasn't. And I can admit that now, that was my sin. I allowed pride to take over. You know, and that's what happens. Perhaps you feel the same. Well, the solution to me was, after all of this, is I went on a journey, and I attended church with my wife for quite regularly, but I wasn't actually a Christian myself. And then one day I decided I'm gonna try this out, and so I did. And then I instantly found meaning and purpose in everything that I did. I instantly found the meaning and purpose and the clarity that I was after. And then, you know, the way that I'm setting up Kingdom Impact Lab, which is my second established business, but actually it's my third business, because as a freelance copywriter, I had a little brand name that didn't really work out. And before I had 2 travel blogs which didn't work out either. So and well, the point is that the way that I found meaning and clarity was to anchor myself in what it means to become Christ-like. It's the pursuit of excellence in everything you do, excellence in your ability to serve others, excellence in your skills, excellence in your character, excellence in your integrity. It's to operate on extravagant love and aim to be a blessing to as many people as you possibly can, and to apply that to every situation that you're in. It's to operate on humble service, and to have an attitude and a mindset that your business does not belong to you. You are merely a steward for God. It's to acknowledge and to accept that your finances and your resources are not yours. You are merely a steward to manage these resources for God. And your job, your responsibility, your duty is to uncover your unique purpose in life, what you were created to do, and then it's to develop that purpose that you have, which will be based around your life experiences, your unique gifts and your unique skills. That these are the things that you would do all day, every day without getting paid because you enjoy doing them. It's your life experiences and what you've been through in the past. I'm a big advocate that the amount of suffering that you go through in the present is proportionate to how much you can help others going through the same pains and struggles in the future. So that what you went through in the past, that is part of your purpose in life, to help people that have gone through it. It's based on, you know, it's your passions, your interests, what you're good at, all these things. It's to identify what you're good at here, and then identify the kind of people that you can serve. The people that you can serve are going to be the people where you've actually experienced it yourself and you've gained the wisdom and insights to go through it. And then actually adopting a mindset where you are going to steward all these gifts and resources that you have as a unique individual, a unique human, to do it, to serve, to humbly serve other people and to help them. And that's kind of what the process was like for me. In order to do that, I first had to anchor my identity in what it means to be a Christian. And this is so important, because before, while I was an atheist, the issue is that you set your big goals, you can cast a vision of what you want to achieve, but the reality is that your vision, your goals and everything is not anchored in anything solid, especially when you're starting out and you're just trying to figure things out. And so if you're not anchored onto anything, how on earth can you possibly expect to remain in alignment with what you're trying to achieve? It's kind of like just off the top of my head, an analogy. There's a flight from London to Singapore. So about 14 hours. I don't know, maybe 12,000 kilometers, maybe, give or take. So the flight takes off, it has a destination in mind, and as it goes off, the plane flies over Europe, over Turkey, over the Middle East, over the Indian subcontinent, down across Myanmar, Thailand, over the sea, down over Malaysia in the tropics, and by the equator to Singapore. As we go through there, it's passing through all these different climates, all these different atmospheric changes, all the different winds, everything. Naturally, this flight is going to be knocked, of course, from all the elements that it's going through over such a long distance. But because the pilots have the destination Singapore in mind, they're able to make these minor adjustments to recalibrate their flight path in order to make sure that they actually hit the destination that they aim for. And so the pilots on the plane, or however it works on the plane, are likely to make dozens, if not hundreds, of these micro recalibrations to make sure that they are realigned with the destination, because otherwise they're not going to reach there, and they're going to run out of fuel, or they may inadvertently run into a flight path of another plane in a different area and cause all kinds of problems. That's that's scenario one, where they have a solid destination of where they're going. Now compare that to what I was like before, and this is similar to a long haul flight taking off from London, but it doesn't know where it's going. It doesn't have a destination. What's going to happen? It's going to go up, and then there's a storm over here, so the pilots are naturally going to readjust the plane ever so slightly just to avoid the storm, and then they're going to straighten back out, and then they're going down this way, and they've been told that there's another flight coming in this way, make sure you're a certain distance away, so they'll calibrate a little bit there and go there. They come over somewhere else, then coming over mountains where there's probably the updraft, and that's likely to cause a bit of turbulence. So you know what? Let's increase altitude and let's change a little bit here. And the point is that what's going to happen? The plane's not going to arrive at any destination. Maybe it flies around, runs out of fuel. Maybe it lands at an airport, but they haven't got a clue where it is. Maybe they end up going in circles. Probably they would end up going in circles, come to think about it. The point is, without that destination, the first storm comes, they're going to readjust to avoid the storm. Short-term convenience. They're not going to recalibrate to go back or go through the storm if they don't have that destination. The next thing is that the other flight's coming. So they're going to change their flight path in order to abide by the safety requirements of the distance that they need to be away from that plane. But they're not going to recalibrate back because they don't have anything to recalibrate to. You get the point. And then, either it's going to spin around in circles, but eventually it's going to run out of fuel and then gone, which is exactly what happened to me. I did not have a destination. I thought I did, but every kind of storm or every kind of challenge or every kind of obstacle that I came to, or every kind of short-term frustration and lack of results, and there was plenty of it, all of these things came, and I just relied on my own judgment, and my own judgment relied on my own emotions in that present moment, and my own emotions on that present moment were influenced by a whole bunch of different things, such as, did I have a good sleep last night? What day of the week is it? As the week goes on, naturally you're more burned out. What time of day is it? Has my son at the time, has he been causing stress and problems and all these different things? And if so, that's going to negatively influence you. And then all of these things influence your emotions. And then your emotions, you're relying on your emotions, which emotions are not real, they're just simply feelings, to make decisions which ultimately change the direction of where you're actually heading in business, which is insane to think about. And the reason is because I did not have a solid anchor, I did not have that solid destination in mind. There was nothing that I could, whenever you naturally drift away, you can stop and realign yourself. None of it happened. Of course it didn't, because I did not have anything solid to anchor in. And that ultimately resulted in me trying to, every time something didn't work, I changed my target audience. I changed my target audience. I changed my positioning. I changed the way I presented the offer. None of these worked. Okay, it must be the offer. Let's try a different offer. That didn't work. Let's try a different target audience. And it was just jumping from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, which is literally the definition of shiny object syndrome, which hypocritically I can look back now and say that I was making fun of and laughing at and making jokes about how other people are doing it and I'm so virtuous and I'm so great because I'm not doing it, kind of thing. That was the reality, but the reason is because I did not have a solid anchor. So suddenly, after becoming a Christian and then looking at the Christianity and looking at the doctrine and the principles that that teaches, well, the core concept is that God and Christ are timeless, eternal, infinite, perfect. Well, in other words, it's a solid anchor. It's a solid destination. It's the destination that this flight's going to go to. It is not going to change. And so all of a sudden, by uncovering your gifts, your calling, your purpose in life, and all of these things, you now have something that you can anchor to as the destination of where you're going. And that way, it's going to keep you aligned. It's going to keep you in check. It's going to make sure that you are actually making meaningful progress to something that is not going to move and not going to change. Sure, you're going to pivot and move as you go along the way. That's normal. That's a natural thing of what's going to happen. However, the ultimate destination and the ultimate goal that you have is not going to change. It aligns you, it focuses you, it gives you clarity, and that's the next thing. You anchor yourself in what it means to become Christ-like. Anchor yourself more, if you're not a Christian, in something that's transcendent to just simply making money. It has to be a higher reason, it has to be a higher purpose. Because it needs to be something that does not change, does not move. And why? Why do you need it? Well, okay, more specifically, why do you need God in the equation here? If you notice, the sun's just come up and it's shining on the window outside, which is now reflecting right behind me. So hopefully it's not going to go in my eyes and blind me. So specifically, why do you need God in the equation? The reason why you need God in the equation as your highest order anchor is because you need to anchor yourself in something timeless, eternal, infinite. Because it does not change. The same principles that you will anchor yourself in today are the same principles that people anchored themselves in 2,000 years back. Then the same principles that people will anchor themselves in 2,000 years to come, in 10,000 years to come, in 100,000 years to come. They are timeless. Without God, you will define your core values, you will define your identity, but it is based on your human emotions, your human whims. And exactly the same as what I went through before, the story I told was, I kept changing. My core values are subjective, and if you have subjective based on my own experience and what I want, and if that's the case, your core values will be anchored in cultural and societal influences, and in business that is 100% transactional, and then you will fall into the trap of anchoring your self-worth and everything in your business based on how much money you make, because money is the primary focus in business. And then you will focus on money for a long time, and then eventually you'll hit the financial target that you set yourself, which inherently is a meaningful goal, because maybe that's the amount that you need to operate the business, maybe that's the amount to be financially free, maybe that's the amount that you need to be comfortable and not have to worry about money. Worrying about money is one of the biggest stresses. Issues with money and financial concerns is one of the biggest reasons for divorce. So, when you hit that financial target, everything is you're supposed to enter paradise, utopia, everything's great, wonderful. but in actual fact it lasts for a little bit, and then you set yourself the next revenue goal, and then ultimately you just find there's no meaning in this is where you feel the disillusionment, this is where you feel the pain and the problem, all the other issues, but there's no intrinsic meaning to what you're doing. And so that's what happens. That's what happens if you don't anchor everything in what it means to be. You need something never changing. You need that solid foundation above you. Otherwise, a solid foundation that's timeless, eternal, infinite, that this solid foundation applies at this stage of your business, and it's also going to apply in 10 years to your business, and also 30 years to your business. Sure, you may be able to pivot, but you know where your North Star is, you know where your destination is, you know what it actually means. And so that's essentially why you feel like that. So this has gone on substantially longer than I wanted to, but as I've mentioned in previous videos, but to start off with, for me, I'm very happy just to sit here and record myself thinking out loud, so to speak, because every video I record, I get a little bit more confident on the video. I understand the concept a little bit better. I talk through different analogies and ideas, which in the future is going to make me a lot more succinct of the way I present things. It helps me come up with different ways to articulate big complex things in simple ways. So, you know, I know nobody's watching, but you know, it's helping me come along, so I don't really mind so much. If anyone was listening though, practical steps is step 1. If you find that you have no meaning, purpose, fulfillment because you've achieved a revenue goal, and setting the next revenue goal does not excite you anymore, well, have you anchored yourself in what it means to become Christ-like, to operate a business on biblical principles? If not, have a look what it means. Use AI, ChatGPT to help uncover. This is to root your identity as a human in, it's to root your identity as a business in, and when you have this solid foundation, you can then cast a vision that is aligned with the core values and everything that I've previously mentioned. And then when you cast the big picture vision, before you cast the big picture vision, if you're unsure on what your gifts are, your calling, and who you can help, get clarity on that first. Again, you can use AI to help you uncover this. It's exactly what I did, and then do a lot of journaling. And then when you're aware of what your calling is, when you're aware to the best that you can be in this present moment of what you were created to do, what your purpose on earth is to do, you can then use that to cast your big vision, because you're rooted in core value, in sort of the timeless, eternal, infinite core Christian values. You can then cast an eternal vision. It's like a vision that you'll never be able to achieve. You then root your big goals, big long-term goals in this vision. You then take what's all up here, hard to understand, a bit intangible maybe, and then you cast that down to 1-year goals, 90-day goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, daily goals. So you can actually start to live out the vision that you've cast for your business. You can start to live out on a day-to-day business way, consciously making the decisions to act with extravagant love, pursue excellence, have humble service with everyone you meet, be a blessing to as many people you interact with in your business, and to always have integrity. And surprise, surprise, in order to actually have integrity, you need to know your identity as a Christian, what you stand for, because if not, your integrity and your consistency when it comes to making decisions and based on your own emotions, which will always be for your own self-interest, when you do that and you start applying these in the day-to-day, you are transforming to become the person that you need to become in order to enact out this vision. Okay, that's all I've got for you. If any of this resonates with you, reach out, get in touch. I am I'm currently on a sort of research mission to see if this is a real problem or not. I strongly suspect that it is. So if you do experience any of what I've described here, that chasing your revenue goals feel meaningless and you want more out of your business, get in touch with me, sam@kingdomimpactlab.com, and I'll be very happy to talk to you about it. And that's all I got for you. Be a blessing to as many people as you can. See you next time.